Kyle, on going scoreless, says, quote, "It's happened before." Why would he say that?
Hello and welcome. I'm your host, William Liu. I'm joined by co-host Alex Wong. This is the Hello and Welcome podcast presented by Betway. And what we're doing is the first of a very special series here of Championship React Pods. The first of 10 of these episodes. What's going on, Alex? What are we actually doing here? What's the idea?
Yeah, what's up, man? We're live from Curado Gallery today, 688 Richmond. You know, one of Jerome and I's favorite places to visit in the city, and sometimes you like to tag along and shop as well.
Here, move this up more.
Man, we're here at Curado, 688 Richmond. Shout out to my guy, Sam. What up, Paul? What's good, bro? You see some of this Raptors stuff? I know you haven't seen any of these tees like this before, man.
No, this is actually crazy. I've never seen any of this gear before, man.
Yeah. Yo, this Vinsanity, I've actually never seen this one. Or this one with the Raptor with the motorcycle. This little hockey jersey
I feel like I've seen this one. You guys got me this.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yo, look at this, though, man.
Oh,
Huskies 20? Who do you think that is, man?
I don't know. Could it be Damon Stoudemire?
Oh, it's Damon Stoudemire.
Actually, I haven't seen this one.
Man.
This my size too. You know, they got these sick tees, man.
Yeah.
They got a lot of sick tees.
They got
actually.
sweaters, man.
Yeah. No, that's it, man. I love this place, man. I'll be here all the time. This is our first. So what we want to do for the 30th anniversary season is, starting with this episode, we're going to pick 10 games from the 2019 championship playoff run and do a championship react pod, rewatch the games, talk about the storylines, break down everything, reminisce a little bit. And today we're going to start with one of our favorite games from that run, the first playoff game of that championship run, Saturday, April 13th, 2019, 5 p.m. at Scotiabank Arena. Game 1 between the Toronto Raptors and the Orlando Magic. Before we even get into anything about this game, set
the scene for us, man. Set the scene.
Well, you know, the Raptors. So the Raptors finished 58-24 that season.
Yep.
And number 2 seed heading into the playoffs.
Milwaukee had like a generational run. They had won 60 games. Yeah. Bud's first year.
Would you say heading into the playoffs, expectations was Warriors-Bucks in the finals? I think because Kevin Durant was on that Warriors team.
I mean, everyone knew the Warriors are going to win the West, right?
Yeah.
They had already been 2-time reigning champions, and also won, in 2015 before that as well. And I think for the big question was, number one, was Boston going to turn it around? Because that was the year they signed Kyrie.
Oh, that's right. Okay.
Was Milwaukee's regular season run real?
Yep.
And, where are the Raptors going to be? Because, like, the Raptors had obviously made, this is, their 5th straight trip to the playoffs at this point.
Mm-hmm.
But LeBron wasn't there anymore, and it was like, can they finally get over the hump here? So I think the East was a little bit more up for grabs. Nevertheless, though, it's still a 2-7 playoff series. I think the expectations were still that Toronto were going to win this series.
Yeah, 2-7 playoff series. So, like you mentioned, the Raptors' playoff history, this is like year 6 of their playoff run during this era. So 2014, they start by losing in the first round in 7 games to Paul Pierce and the Nets.
Fuck Brooklyn!
2015, they're swept by Paul Pierce and the Wizards.
I don't give a shit about it!
2016, 4-2 loss to Cleveland in the Eastern Conference Finals.
LeBron's like,
I've been in many adverse situations, and this wasn't one of them.
LeBron was also like, can you hear these fans? They lost by 50 and they're still clapping.
He's like, Doris, man, look at them, man. Look at how cute these little fans are.
Look at Drake clapping over there.
2017, swept by Cleveland in the second round. I believe Kyle was injured in that series.
Yeah, that was LeBron spitting the ball in Serge's face. That was LeBron sipping a beer.
Yeah, PJ Tucker wearing, Kanye Red October shoes while getting swept.
Yep.
2018, this is the previous year coming into this championship season. Number 1 seed, 59 wins.
Yep.
We worked their offense. And then swept by Cleveland in round 2 with
there's a lid on the rim, and also
the birth of LeBronto. Yeah, the birth of LeBronto. Dwayne Casey gets fired.
Yeah.
So in the offseason, DeMar DeRozan is traded, of course, to the San Antonio Spurs along with Jakob Poeltl, a protected first rounder.
He hasn't stopped crying about it since on podcasts.
Yeah, protected first rounder, which turned into Keldon Johnson, right? If I remember correctly.
Doesn't matter.
Kawhi in return, Kawhi Leonard, Danny Green, and $5 million in cash, which I believe went to Giants of Africa.
I mean,
that's
I
what
feel like
I'm assuming.
They've deserved 5 times that much.
Yeah, and then during the season, the 2018-19 season, trade deadline, Raptors acquire Marc Gasol from Memphis for Jonas Valanciunas, CJ Miles, DeLon Wright, and a 2024 second rounder. And after acquiring Gasol, they also shipped our guy Moose Greg Monroe to Brooklyn. And then buyout market, Jeremy Lin joins on February 13th.
Yep.
Valentine's Day was a happy one for Asians in Toronto. Jody Meeks.
Yep.
And Eric Moreland, which we will get to later in this program.
Yeah.
So
generational team, man. We had such a good team.
This was the roster. And then the day before game 1 happens, the Raptors announced that OG Anunoby had an emergency appendectomy, and he would be out. I believe at the time the report was he might return during the conference finals. As we know now, he did not end up returning during the playoffs.
Yeah, that was really unfortunate. OG had a really, really sad year that year. He was coming off a great rookie season. There was all this propaganda, like, you know, he was going to be like the next Kawhi kind of thing. He's baby Kawhi. We have actual Kawhi. But that roster was loaded, man. I mean, with or without OG, like, I mean, you look at the starting lineup, and we'll get to it in a second, but, like, starting 5, it was crazy. You know, multiple award winners, multiple All-Stars, and then you coming off the bench, multiple future All-Stars. Yeah. Right? I mean, damn. We were just, we were ready to go. Honestly, in hindsight, the Raptors were like a juggernaut hiding in plain sight.
Oh, okay. yeah, I guess you could say that in retrospect.
Yeah, no, seriously.
But, I mean, coming into the playoffs, I was not, and I know the exact moment, and we'll get to it when we get to that game, but, like, I was not having any championship expectations for this Raptors team going into the start of the playoffs.
Is it because we were just like too like tortured or humbled? Like,
I think a little bit of that.
If you look at objectively, like the team was excellent.
I was also like, is Kawhi gonna hold up?
Okay.
There were still questions at the time about like Pascal, who had a great regular season, like how he was gonna do in the playoffs. I was worried about Kyle's playoff reputation, which will come up during this game.
I can't
like,
wait.
The team was good for sure, and I think in retrospect we should have given them more credit. But I think being in that moment, I think, like you said, the narratives were around the Bucks being this like juggernaut team, and the Raptors and Sixers and some of these other teams may be playing just to hopefully get to the conference finals.
Oh yeah, I forgot the Sixers also really great that year.
Yeah, Sixers.
East was tough, man. East was pretty tough.
Sixers are definitely coming. So including in the East, so a tale of the tape for the Orlando Magic. So first of all, before I tell you anything, what do you remember about this Orlando Magic team? Anything?
I remember Steve Clifford being their head coach.
Poor Cliff, man. Just coaches Charlotte and Orlando for like a decade.
Yeah, I mean, you know, it's fine.
Come on, man.
I think this was like an ideal Steve Clifford team because he's like a Tom Thibodeau disciple.
He a grinder.
Yeah, he wants them to be really defensively sound.
Yeah,
this Magic team was kind of like nothing special like most Magic teams, but then turn it around midway through the season, finished the year on a really, really hot stretch. They were like much better than your average 7th seed. Yeah. And like offensively, of course, like they just didn't really have much. But defensively, that was a special group, man. You had Aaron Gordon, you had Jonathan Isaac, you had like just length up and down the roster, a healthy Kem Birch coming off that bench.
Representing We the North. We'll get to him in a sec.
We'll
get to him in a sec.
So they finished the year really well.
Yeah, so like you mentioned, they ended up going 22-9 down the stretch and won 8 out of their last 10 to finish 42-40 as the 7th seed. Subplot, we just missed out because the Pistons finished 1 game behind them as the 8th seed. We just missed out on a Dwayne Casey Nick Nurse first round matchup, which you have wanted that matchup instead because as Raptors fans remember, we got swept by Dwayne Casey that season in the regular season.
I'm without due respect to the Pistons.
You've been in a lot of adverse situations. This wasn't going to be one of them.
I wasn't worried about Reggie Bullock's Detroit Pistons with like Andre Drummond and Blake Griffin in the front court.
Oh man, Dwayne getting that game 1 win against Nick Nurse would have been great.
That was his championship because he got swept in the first round.
Oh yes, he did.
Nothing new for him though.
Yeah, so. Yeah, like you mentioned, Orlando was a really good regular season team. Season series between Toronto and Orlando was split across the 4 games. But Orlando did hold Toronto, which had one of the top offenses in the league, to just 92.6 points per game in their first 3 matchups.
Yeah. And the funniest thing with that one, too, is I remember in the regular season, there was Danny Green hit a game winner on the baseline.
That's right, yeah.
Against Orlando. I think that was in Orlando. I think Pascal, the whole season, that was his most improved season. He was, breaking out as sort of like the second option for the Raptors. But throughout the regular season series, he really struggled to get off against Orlando. I mean, they had really good wing defenders with Aaron Gordon and Isaac, so there was a question mark there. I think the place that you felt really confident was, especially with the Raptors getting Marc Gasol, that was going to give them a much better chance of guarding Vucevic, because Vucevic had like a 30-20 game early in that season against the Raptors.
Okay. Yeah. Vucci Bane. Yeah. You mentioned Marc Gasol. We mentioned he was acquired at the trade deadline. Another what if was the Hornets were really close to acquiring Marc at the deadline because they wanted to upgrade around Kemba Walker.
Oh,
wow. This is only 5 years ago. But the deal fell through because Gasol did not want to exercise his player option the following season. And the Hornets ended up finishing 39-43 and missed the playoffs. I can't even imagine now going back a playoff run without Marc Gasol.
Yeah, no, I don't think the Raptors would have gotten out the second round, quite frankly. Marc's defense was integral, and like even watching it now with fresh eyes again, having seen it for the first time after 5 seasons, this game, like it's just so clear that he was not only somebody who can really move the ball for the team, but also like defensively, he just like anchored the whole entire thing. Yeah. And yeah, I don't know, man. I can't imagine Marc not being on this.
Man, just watching this game too. Like, there's so many moments when I'm like, man, I can't believe this dude was a Raptor. I can't believe this dude was a Raptor. So much nostalgia. Anyways, so coming into this series, all 20 ESPN panelists picked the Raptors to win. That's nice. No one had it going more than 6 games. Okay. The following panelists, experts, picked the Raptors to sweep Orlando. Tim Bontemps of the Hoop Collective. Yeah. Baxter Holmes. Jesse Washington. Okay. And Om Young Misuk.
Well,
so, shouts to Om.
Yeah, I mean, I think the only thing is, I think somebody, maybe Damon Jones.
Not Damon Jones.
That's a real like. What is job?
Was he on Gilbert Arenas' pod?
So I think it was on NBA TV, and I think Damon Jones was like, I think the Magic have a chance to like beat the Raptors here. Or whatever.
Okay.
But like realistically, anybody looking at this matchup, like the Raptors team was stacked.
Yeah.
And Orlando just really didn't have enough offense to sort of like give the Raptors trouble, except for in Game 1, which we'll get to.
All right, so I wanted to ask you first question, Will.
Okay.
Who on the Raptors had the most to gain/lose heading into the playoffs? Okay, so I'm going to give you a couple candidates here. Kyle Lowry.
Certainly a lot to lose.
Up and down playoff reputation. He's the only Raptors starter to return from the previous season.
Yep.
And during the season, if you remember, after DeMar was traded, Kyle was really upset. In December of the regular season, he sat down with ESPN's Rachel Nichols, another throwback, and was asked about his relationship with Masai. And he said, quote, "He's the president of basketball operations, and that's it. He does his job. I do my job."
Yep.
And then he was asked about the DeMar trade and said, quote, "I felt betrayed because he felt betrayed, because that's my guy."
Yeah.
Thoughts on Kyle Lowry's just general reaction to the DeMar trade?
I mean, it's like when you left the Raptors show, man. I'm like, I felt betrayed because my boy felt betrayed.
But imagine if
I got to ride with my guy. That's
imagine if I left the Raptors show and they like literally brought in Kawhi Leonard to sit next to you. I would be a pretty happy guy. It's like, cool, man. My friend got traded or whatever. But Kawhi Leonard is here.
I think number one, it speaks to 2 things. Number one, it speaks to how much Kyle was loyal to DeMar.
Sure.
Because he's like, oh, I'll screw up my current relationship just to be able to ride by my guy. Because ultimately he becomes really good friends with Kawhi as well. But, I mean, Kyle had a lot to lose because the reputation of the Raptors at this time was really bad. It doesn't really matter what the team was on paper because, like, the team reputationally, especially, like, in the U.S., was this is the little Bronto team.
Yeah.
This is a team that like is going to choke in the playoffs no matter what. And Kyle was one of 2 faces with it. And honestly, it's like not even entirely unfair because you look at some of the percentages and like Kyle's percentages in the playoffs were never good up until this point. Doesn't mean he wasn't impactful. He was certainly impactful. He could certainly be a plus 11 with a 0-point game.
Yeah.
But like, you know what I mean? Like this was kind of like, he had the most.
No, Kyle, you're perfectly right. Like Kyle and DeMar carried that reputation.
Yeah.
And nobody took the Raptors seriously when the playoffs started because of those 2. And everybody was just like, okay, when are the Raptors going to falter? Also, it was reported by Jake Fisher at the time with Sports Illustrated that at the trade deadline, the Raptors called Memphis and offered Jonas Valanciunas and Kyle Lowry to try to get both Mike Conley and Marc Gasol.
See, I'm happy that didn't happen in terms of the Kyle aspect because I think there was a conversation Masai actually went to Kyle and was like, okay, man, we let you be upset for like the first 3 months, 4 months.
Yeah, it's like, can you just like championships over friendships,
Yeah,
man?
like what do you want to be about here, Kyle? Like, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, you're about, if you win the championship here, you could be the greatest Raptor of all time.
Yeah, no, straight up.
Yeah.
And I'm glad they sorted that out.
Yeah.
I understand why Kyle was mad because of the relationship
For sure.
with DeMar, and there was some chat about like.
But he was going extra though. Like, you don't
It
have
was
to
a
sit
little-
down with Rachel Nichols.
This was in December. The season had already started for like a month and a half.
Yeah.
Like, we got to lock in and win the championship, man. But shouts to Kyle.
Of course.
So Kyle, out of 10, where would you rank in terms of most to gain,
10 out of 10.
most to lose?
10 out of 10.
Like, a
'Cause
lot.
If you got traded to Memphis,
Yeah.
at that point, Kyle,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like, he just fades.
How about the pressure? Let's say the pressure coming into the playoffs for Masai, because
it was
he had
huge.
built this great
It
team.
was huge.
Local media had him sweating at the presser after he traded DeMar.
Yeah, he was sweating like crazy.
He
at
was
the press
literally
conference,
sweating.
man. Yeah, he looked like me warming up for basketball.
And the Raptors have been swept 3 out of the past 4 seasons out of the playoffs.
Yep.
This is finally like Masai was known as this really patient dude. Some people thought probably overly patient with his team. Finally gets rid of Dwayne Casey, who he didn't hire. Finally trades DeMar DeRozan.
Who he didn't draft.
Yep, goes all in. I mean, the Kawhi trade, yes, but then goes all in with Marc Gasol at the trade deadline as well. So pressure on Masai as well.
No, for sure. I remember even writing a column before the season where it was like he got rid of the only sort of scapegoat that he possibly could have had left in Dwayne Casey and also DeMar DeRozan.
Right.
So it's like, if it didn't work out, I don't think they were going to fire Masai, but like he wouldn't be known as this like huge winner, this like incredible GM without this title. So like, he had a ton to lose as well.
What about Kawhi Leonard? Plays 9 games the previous year with the Spurs.
Yep.
Requests a trade.
Yep.
Everybody thinks he's going to go to the Lakers.
Right.
And, of course, the Raptors swoop in and make the trade. I was pretty surprised. Like, damn, he played 60 games during the regular season. A lot higher number than I remember.
Yeah.
With the Raptors.
He was basically, outside of like a short stretch in January, he basically only sat second out of back-to-backs.
Right. And that was the plan for them. Like, coming into the season.
That was the stated plan, and they got him to follow this plan. And also, if you remember, in all the games that Kawhi missed, the 22 that he missed, the Raptors went 17-5 in those games. That's why the Raptors were the second seed.
Yeah, so pressure for Kawhi coming into these playoffs to just kind of really rebuild his reputation.
A little bit, yeah. I mean, everyone knew Kawhi was a great player. So
Yeah.
not as much for him.
How about Nick Nurse? Promoted to head coach after Dwayne is fired.
Yep.
And I was pulling up the news reports at the time. So we know that Mike Budenholzer was one of the coaches considered at the time. But CBC did report that Masai had narrowed his search down at the end to Nick Nurse and Spurs assistant coach Ettore Messina.
Yeah, Ettore Messina.
Yeah, so those were the 2 finalists.
Well, I thought you were going to say, because there's also a separate Toronto Star article from Dave Feschuk, who I know talks to Masai quite a bit.
Yeah.
And his finalists were obviously Nick, who got the job, Mike Budenholzer, who went to the Bucks, and also your man Doc Rivers.
Was Doc a finalist during that time? I don't remember that
Doc
at all.
went to the
man.
Clippers. Yeah, Doc went to the Clips.
Wow.
Yeah, or I guess he was with the Clippers already. But
Bud ends up going to the Bucks during that offseason.
And I'm not gonna lie, Bud coming into the job search like had more clout than Nick did. Because Nick was the assistant. He was already here in Toronto. So it was like, are you making enough of a change to go from Dwayne to his lead assistant versus Bud, who had, led Atlanta to 60 win seasons?
Yeah. So did you have a preference at the time? Like when these, the coaching search was happening, was there a certain guy you wanted?
I think looking back on it, I was 26 years old and just very dumb.
Yeah.
So I'm like, yeah, Bud.
I think Bud was played up as the favorite, though. It's like,
Bud
bring
was
in the
favorite.
guy.
I think Bud might have even turned down Toronto because he looked at Milwaukee's situation, was like, that's probably a better team.
Right.
But
Damn.
it's not the first time he'd make a mistake.
Yeah, I didn't know Doc Rivers was in consideration.
Yeah, I got to pull up the article.
They might have lost to Orlando in the first round if they had Doc. How bad do you think they would have crashed out with Doc?
He's like, well, Doug Smith.
This guy's doing a Doc. Grange. those 3 points that you made at the half, man. Our guys were watching that, man. But
what can you do, man?
DJ
Augustin, just unstoppable.
I know what Om Yumasuk said about me, man. It's all good, guys. Okay, so we get to the game finally here. Game 1.
Let's go. By the way, as a reminder, if you want to go back and actually watch this game, it is actually, we got a link for it in the description of the video, but you can actually just watch it for free on NBA.com.
Right. So we'll attach the link.
Or like the condensed 10-minute version, whatever you want.
There's a condensed 10 minutes. You can watch it across different types of broadcasts.
Yeah.
I believe both of us watch the local Sportsnet broadcast.
But there is an option for a Mandarin broadcast.
Yes, there is.
You can watch this in Chinese if you want to.
If you want to see Kawhi Leonard hit the shot against Philly, in Mandarin. I'm sure that's available. So make sure you check that out.
Wow,
Ni hao.
Hawaii.
Ni hao. You know.
Anyway.
Jeremy. So Sportsnet broadcasts.
Yes.
Brad Fay, Alvin Williams, Sherman Hamilton.
Yeah, it's back when Alvin was kind of in that Matt Bonner role
yeah,
right now.
Yeah, they're on the panel. Matt Devlin, Leo Rounds on the call.
Mm-hmm.
Eric Smith on the
sideline
sidelines.
reporter. Yep.
And yeah, man, I don't know. Like the game here, like just watching the game. What memories? What jumps out to you? Just watching the game, watching the starting lineup intros.
Yeah. I want to start with the intros because I thought the production of it was really cool. That was the season where the Raptors went with like the theme of the North, the word North, but written in like 30 different languages. And I just thought that hit really hard. It kind of really captured like the essence of Toronto, like the multiculturalism, but also, of course, just, continuation of the We the North theme. The intro was super hard. And then, like, the actual starting intros for the Raptors. And I mean, just put aside the fact that, like, look at the players that we have, right? Like, Kyle Lowry at 1, Danny Green at 2, Kawhi at 3, Pascal at 4, Marc Gasol at 5. Like, objectively, that roster is fire. But you know what was also fire was our man Strizzy doing the intro.
Okay, let's hear these.
Doing the intro, all right?
Let's go.
It starts off with the big boss from Barcelona. It's Marc Gasol.
The big boss from Barcelona. I remember that.
That
one.
was sick.
I love that one. That's a 10 out of 10. Yeah.
Out of UNC, the money man from 3-point land, Danny Green.
I'll give it a 9 out of 10. Yeah.
That's pretty sick, though.
Yeah. Because he wasn't the money man for a lot of the playoffs.
Don't worry, man. It was USD to CAD conversion.
All right.
And then it was like, we keep it spicy at the 3, or we keep it spicy at the 4, representing Cameroon, wearing 43, Spicy P, Pascal Siakam.
10 out of 10, man. These are all 10s for me.
And then number 4, he's your 5-time NBA All-Star from North Philly to your city, wearing number 7, Kyle Lowry.
Yeah. That's my man. That's a 10.
And then finally, from California, they call him the Claw, wearing the number 2. You know who? Kawhi Leonard.
Yeah, that's a 12 out of 10 for me.
I'm getting chills just even thinking about that being
honestly,
our starting five,
watching that starting lineup intro.
Oh my goodness.
And of course, like Raptors fans remember during that season, Kyle has them doing all these like different like calisthenics, like warm-up routines.
So for people who weren't there for that time, Kyle used to have the entire bench, like everybody who wasn't in the starting lineup would be on the ground doing some sort of weird routine. Yeah. So like people will be doing yoga, people will be doing like bicycles, people doing planks.
I think Marc was the only one who didn't really participate.
The starting lineup, like,
they would be on the side.
Yeah, they're standing up. So Marc's just like, here's a high five.
And buddy. I remember when Jeremy Lin first got to the team, he wasn't sure, what to do. I think there was a time when he was like pretending to eat ramen.
Yeah. That's like, fire, man.
Yeah, which was pretty fire. So just, great vibes to kick off. Hey, man.
Hey, buddy.
Just recently hit the big 4-0. What about you, bro?
A little more recently 4-0, but we are both in the 40 club.
Let me tell you, man, being an adult really comes with its share of challenges.
Definitely. I think both you and I are homeowners, and I think we're both also dealing with mortgages in life.
Yeah, man. Mortgage rates, choosing the right terms, dealing with paperwork. It can be really overwhelming,
I still don't know how that works.
Well, listen, that's where our friends at Dominion Lending Centers come in, man. They make the whole process simple and stress-free. Whether you're renewing your mortgage, hunting for the best rates, or if you just need advice, they're here to help, bro.
You know what? I am looking for that advice, and I think that's why I'm going to visit www.dominionlending.ca.
Yeah, man. www.dominionlending.ca. Take the guesswork out of your mortgage and step into financial confidence with our friends at Dominion Lending by our side. And then the game starts, and Kawhi comes out on fire.
Bro, we looking good.
Yeah, no, Kawhi comes out on fire. I think he makes his first 4 shots.
Yeah, it's like a pull-up 3, a pull-up mid-range, another pull-up mid-range. You're like, holy, this is sick.
And if you're tracking all of this stuff, the championship run officially opens with a Kawhi like mid-range jumper over Nick Vucevic.
Yeah,
that's how it starts. And Raptors get off in that first quarter to a 30-25 lead. My boy Jody Meeks makes a little cameo.
Jody Meeks with an and one.
Yeah, because Danny Green gets in early foul trouble. His playoff run begins ominously.
The money man.
And even like, I think the main thing for me too, kicking off is like Kawhi and Pascal are both looking really good coming out the gate here.
That's the thing, because it's like, that was the combination that led the Raptors to success over the course of the season. Kawhi, obviously being Kawhi. And then Pascal that year emerges from being like 7-8 point per game guy with the second unit bench mob to being like a featured player who like over the course of the season developed an ISO game. And like in this game, he was going up against Jonathan Isaac. Like Isaac's still a really good defender.
Yeah.
And I think for Pascal to come out and just like take Isaac off the dribble and score on him a couple times was like, you know what? It was like, we're here. We're good. Like we're actually in smooth sailing. But second quarter, Raptors are not smooth anymore.
Yeah. So one of the things that jumps out in that first half is like the Raptors are really struggling from three.
That's the main reason they lost this game.
I think they end up, 6 of 21 in the first half from three. And Orlando fights back. They go on a 15-0 run late in that quarter. What are you seeing during that stretch of the game?
15-0 run. Raptors sometimes get really ISO heavy in that time. Kawhi is a very ISO heavy player. So like I'm not putting it on Kawhi, but like Kawhi and Pascal both kind of ISO heavy. That's where I thought Marc Gasol was such a huge part for this team because not only defensively, but he was able to just like keep the ball moving a lot more. Half the plays were just like give the ball to Marc at the top of the floor and everyone cut around him. And like the 2 years the Raptors had Marc Gasol, like that was always a great play. Kyle obviously running pick and roll, always kept the ball moving, but obviously he had 0 points. We'll talk about that. So yeah, I mean, outside of Fred, who came off the bench and hit 2 threes, like there was just no juice coming off that bench either. So
yeah,
it seemed like a tough game for game one for sure.
It seemed like whenever like that adversity hit, you're right. Like it seemed like they just resorted to like ISO ball. Like the ball really wasn't moving. Guys were still like felt like they were just still trying to like get to know each other. The Fred thing is a good point too, because watching the broadcast, I do remember like the previous season. I forgot about this. He got hurt in game 82 because they decided to try to get a win against, Heat culture down there.
They were trying to chase for 60 wins. They were at 59 wins. They lost game 82. That would have given them 60.
Yeah, and Bam Adebayo gave Fred a bam to the shoulder. And Fred ends up missing 4 games. Never looks right during that playoff run.
He comes back. He misses a wide open 3 because DeMar DeRozan at the end of game 1 against the Cavs drives and kicks, draws like the whole defense and kicks it out to Fred at the top of the floor, and he just misses the 3.
Yeah, so we know Fred's going to obviously play a key role in this championship run, but it's good to see him back healthy as part of this team. So Raptors actually respond. They're down 57-41, and then they go on an 8-0 run to end the first half. So we go into the locker room, 57-49, Orlando's up. And at this point, it's just crazy because it's like, man, like we finally have Kawhi. We have such a good team going to the playoffs.
Yeah.
And like this game 1 thing is going to happen again.
Well, the funny thing is like, how do you even let like Orlando have 57 points? Their lineup was DJ Augustin, Evan Fournier, Aaron Gordon playing 3, Jonathan Isaac, and Nikola Vucevic. And Vucevic, who's their best scorer, doesn't even score at all in this game basically because Marc does such a good job defending him. So it's like, how are you letting that team have 57?
I mean, not to Dwayne Casey make or miss league this game too. Like they were making a lot of threes.
They were.
Like even guys like Fournier, like Gordon. Like I know they can like shoot from 3, but like it just seemed like they were getting wide open looks and making them. Key subplot of the first half: Jonas Valanciunas is in attendance to support his squad, and he during a TV interview with Eric Smith. I believe Eric is like asking him for his like analysis for the Eric's basically, yo, what are you doing here, man?
I mean, basically, the first question was, what are you doing here? And then Jonas is like, well, I played in Toronto for a long time. I like these guys, and also I like basketball.
Yeah.
Eric's second question was, what do you think of this game and the series? And JV's like, I think Raptors will win. Like, they're better than Orlando. So, like, okay, cool. Yeah. And the third question was, hey, what's your message for Raptor fans? Because you kind of got traded right before he came back from injury. Yeah. As you remember, like, JV was actually a big part of this team. But in a game against Golden State in that year, December, Draymond Green.
Oh, karate chopped him.
Like, he literally hit him with a, whatever. It was like regular foul, like in the post, but like it broke
regular
JV's thumb.
Draymond foul.
Yeah, it was honestly, it wasn't even a flagrant at the time. But like JV ends up fracturing his finger, so he's out for the next like 2 months. The day he's supposed to come back to the lineup, the Raptors trade him for Marc Gasol. That was in Atlanta.
Yeah. So
JV was like, obviously, I love Toronto fans.
I don't think JV ends up coming back to another game because he ends up witnessing another game 1 loss.
Right.
And he's like, man, I don't want to be the jinx. Subplot number 2 that wasn't talked about as much, Bebe was also at this game as well.
Bebe?
Yeah, so Bebe was at the game as well. I believe those were the 2 key
Bebe Nogueira,
former Raptors.
Yeah.
So second half, the Raptors actually come out really strong in the third quarter. And at this point, like, I don't know if we were tracking this in real time, but everybody realizes that Kyle has not scored yet.
Oh, yeah.
And he goes to the free throw line and can't even make the 2 free throws. So at this point, the scoreless Williamson watch, I believe, is on.
Yeah.
Do you remember, like, in real time as you're watching this Kyle performance, like, what are the things that you're processing at the time?
At the time, so the thing is, it's funny because getting a chance to go through, this is the first of 10 episodes that we'll do, and obviously we're going to watch it through the broadcast. Like, I didn't watch any of the Raptors games through the broadcast because I was like in the arena physically there covering all the games, so you're not watching the broadcast. And at halftime, you're like looking at the box score, and you're pacing up and down, you're in that media gondola, and you're like, okay, what can we do? And I'm looking at the box score, and I'm like, wait, hold on. Does that say 0 for Kyle?
This guy's like, yo, hold up, player.
Hold up. Does Kyle have 0?
Is that a goose egg?
And then, I mean, the funny thing is, like, he actually made a couple and ones in this game, but they didn't give him continuation.
Oh, no.
So they're like side out.
Not the running subplot of Kyle never getting a continuation call as a Raptor.
Yeah. So, and he drew like at least 4 or 5 fouls in this game. But the one time he went to the foul line, he missed both. And like the crowd, you can definitely hear them go,
So like aside from the fact that he obviously finishes with 0 points, like what did you like? Were there positives from the Kyle performance for you?
No, I mean Kyle's
because he's a plus 11. He's the only one with a positive plus minus in the starting lineup.
Yeah.
And all the talk about, Kyle's always impacting winning and stuff.
No, Kyle's impacting winning. Like he's setting other guys up to score or something like that.
But 0 points?
Well, I mean, the thing is, like, he also wasn't really defending DJ Augustin or Evan Fournier much either. So it was like, it's just, I mean, I'm not going to lie to you. The plus 11's plus 11. That's the accounting of the game. But it wasn't like he was making a big impact.
You weren't feeling that impact.
No, it was like clearly he needed to do more. Because again, like we mentioned, like who had the most to lose? Kyle had the most to lose on this team.
Yeah. So the Raptors are only up by a point going into the fourth quarter, 76-75.
Yep.
And another subplot that happens is because like Terrence Ross was traded for Serge Ibaka, I believe the year before at the trade deadline, and Terrence was doing a lot of talking to the media and on social media too of like, wanting to make the Raptors like regret the trade. At one point,
I'm not gonna lie to you, Terrence. I don't think about you at all.
I promise these subplots are gonna hit better when we get to the future series.
No, don't worry. I get it though.
And then there's one point in the third quarter where he goes baseline and tries to throw down a one-handed dunk on Serge.
Yeah.
And Serge is like, nah, man.
Serge fouls him. The funny thing is, Serge fouls him. He like on the block at the rim, and then he wags his finger. And I'm like, you can't wag your finger on a foul.
Can you wag your finger if you fouled someone on a dunk attempt?
No, it was funny because that Magic team, like T. Ross was like their go-to option off the bench.
Right. There was not a lot of scoring off the bench. So off the bench was like Kem Birch, Wes Iwundu, Michael Carter-Williams, who gets cracked open by Kyle in the fourth quarter.
Bleeds all over the court in this game.
Yeah. So there was not a lot of scoring coming off the bench.
But their bench actually played really well. Except for Terrence, but the Raptors actually like double teamed Terrence Ross. That's actually one of the super mini subplots of the whole playoff run is that the Raptors did a great job guarding off-ball shooters the whole series. Right. Whether it was Terrence Ross in the first one, JJ Redick in the second one, or Milwaukee didn't really have a movement shooter, so we're just gonna move that. Maybe Chris Middleton if you want to call him that, and then obviously the Warriors with Steph and Clay. They actually did a really good job defensively against that type of player.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the fourth quarter opens and Orlando goes on a run. Kyle misses a 3, and then Michael Carter-Williams comes back, hits a corner 3.
I think Kyle misses back-to-back pull-up threes.
Yeah, back-to-back. Kem Birch is kind of killing them early on, too.
Leo on the broadcast is like, Kem Birch, such a beast. I was like, what?
Who knew he was going to be a future Raptor representing Wheeler North?
Yep.
So Pascal's doing really well, too. It's like a back-and-forth game.
He's cooking.
Pascal is like killing it.
He's doing good defensively, dude. That was the thing that stood out to me. Was like Pascal in that year was like so focused on being second option and then defending. Yeah. And his defense was like really impactful.
Man, that was a perfect role for Pascal. Like perfect team.
Literally the perfect role.
Yeah. And there was one play, like you mentioned, on defense. I think he blocks Evan Fournier's corner 3.
Yeah.
And then goes back, scores on the other end. So Raps are up 6 with about 5 minutes left.
Yeah, which is like all things considered, like that's a pretty good spot to be in.
Yeah, but then your boys Aaron Gordon and Nick Vucevic both hit back-to-back threes, and it's a tie game.
No.
Game goes back and forth, and then Magic go up by 3 with about 90 seconds left, and this is when Kawhi just hits like a super casual like step back 3.
He's like pull up,
just like super chill, no pressure, and you're reminded, that's why we got Kawhi on our team.
Yeah,
these playoffs are gonna be different because like it's super chill during crunch time. We could just give him the ball. And then next play down, he hits like a baseline jumper, and the Raptors take the lead.
Yeah.
But then this is when DJ Augustin takes over.
Yeah, this is when DJ Augustin happens. And the funny thing with DJ is, like, for people who don't remember DJ Augustin, like, wasn't he Kevin Durant's point guard in Texas?
Yeah, I guess that would be the first, first
right.
thing
So
about
like
him.
that was the first thing people knew about DJ.
Yeah.
He's like a little bit shorter, like probably like 6 foot flat. You know, like not a very tall point guard, but like was never really much of a scorer. Even, well, I mean, he was a decent scorer, but again, like, he wasn't like a star or anything like that.
Yeah.
Right. The Magic just went through a long run where they like Jameer Nelson was their best point guard for the last like probably 25 years.
Yep. Sure.
You really think about it.
Sure. Yeah.
So it's like DJ was just kind of there, and like as much as you could have questions about Kyle, you're like, Kyle's gonna win this matchup against DJ Augustin, man.
Yeah.
Because like it was like, okay, one thing, Kyle didn't outplay Kyrie or Kyle didn't outplay John Wall. It's like, okay, fine, those guys are all stars. But DJ Augustin, who was cooking this whole game, I gotta say, like there was a play where right before the pull up three that ultimately won this game.
Yep.
He like beat 2 Raptors defenders, went went middle for a reverse layup, and finished in traffic. And I was like, dude, that's DJ Augustin, and that tied the game.
Yep.
Raptors missed the next shot. Orlando doesn't call timeout. And that's when he hits the 3 for the win.
So the shot you mentioned before is, after DJ Augustin blows by the defenders, gets the layup, Magic up 2. No, but they tie it there.
They tie
and
it,
then Kawhi finds Marc in the corner, like wide open corner three.
Corner 3, yeah.
Marc bricks it. Unclear if he ate his jersey or ripped it up there. Not yet.
I think he was okay.
Yeah, he was okay.
Yeah.
And then why don't you break down? So this becomes the infamous final possession of this game.
So no timeout. The Magic decide not to call timeout. There's like a maybe 2-second shot clock, game clock differential, and DJ putting the ball up. Danny Green's the one guarding DJ for most of the game. That was the Raptors' strategy for most of that season, was they had put size on the point guards. And then there was an off-ball action, and Kawhi decides to switch on to DJ Augustin.
Right.
So Kawhi's like, screw this, I'm going to go cover him. Which, like, honestly, like, kind of a baller move, right?
Yeah.
And then DJ gets a pick and roll with, like, probably 5 seconds left on the clock.
Yeah.
Gets the screen.
Yeah, from Vucci, and then Marc Gasol.
Right, and then,
up,
of course, like, with that little time left on the
Yeah.
clock in a tie game, Vucci's going to go straight to the basket so he can get the offensive rebound if there is one.
Yeah.
And in that moment, both Marc and Kawhi sag off of DJ.
Gives him
and
just
DJ's
enough
like,
space. Yeah,
because I think they were worried because DJ's last play was him driving to the basket. So they're like, we're playing him to drive.
Yep.
But he just pulls up for 3. Really a shrewd move by DJ.
Yeah.
That gives him 25 points.
25-0.
I don't think he scored 25 the next 4 games.
Yeah, we could definitely fact check that.
Yeah.
And this is like a bit of a miscommunication between like 2 of the best defensive players
Literally
of that
2
generation.
There's
2 defensive players of the year.
There's
right?
3 defensive player of the year awards between the 2 of those guys, and they could not guard DJ Augustin in that moment.
So Augustin hits the 3. There's 3.4 seconds left for the Raptors. Kawhi catches it on the inbounds, airballs a 3, and that's the game.
Yeah. Crazy.
Yo, what's up, everyone? Black Friday is here, man. And listen, if you've been waiting to grab some Hello and Welcome merch, now is the time. We've got the brand new Wongstradamus hoodie, plus all your favorite hats and tees that you've seen the 3 of us wear on the show, at events, that'll have you looking fresh for this holiday season. So whether you're treating yourself, gifting someone who deserves it, we've got you covered. And here's the deal. If you head to nationgear.ca right now, you'll get 15% off everything. And if you spend $200, we'll hook you up with free shipping because we're cool like that. So don't wait around. The deal is only good for 1 weekend. It ends this Friday, December 6th. Make sure you go to nationgear.ca now. Grab a hoodie, grab a hat, grab a tee, and get holiday ready. And as always, hello and welcome.
The savings. The funniest thing too is like I remember in that moment just being so pissed. Yeah. I remember having to speed walk with Vivek Jacob from Scotiabank to the Yahoo office.
Yeah, for context, we were both working for Yahoo Sports Canada at the time.
This is actually my second React pod for this game.
We might also link in the description of the original one if you want to listen to that.
I used to be so vicious on the pods. I mean, like everyone was pissed at Kyle. Like everybody was pissed at Kyle because it was like, you know what, like, what did we do all this for if we can't count on this to happen in the biggest moment?
Yeah, no, like we've built such a good team now. All we're not even asking for Kyle to carry the team.
Yeah, I'm asking for
play a role. Just play a role.
Give me 15 points a game for this playoff run, which is what he did. But like, I think in retrospect, especially looking back at it, it's just like, it's just one of those random anomalies. Like it wasn't anything that Kyle did wrong. It wasn't anything that like DJ Augustin was just playing out of his mind. Like it happens. And honestly, like, I wasn't even that worried in terms of the rest of the series. Like, I was never like, oh, Raptors going to lose in round one. It was just like, this might take longer than expected. But
I don't think anyone was worried about losing the series, but then it's like, it's just like the history of the game ones coming back.
Right.
It's now suddenly like, not that game two was like a must win, but it's like now it's like, oh, you don't want to go down.
Kind of a must
2-0 going to Orlando. It's like
not going to Orlando.
and then we made all these trades and like I just can't believe we're doing this again.
No, it was just
Why
kind of
can't
annoying.
we just get an easy blowout win like a number 2 seed would against a 7 seed at home? Like, why did it have to come down to
I mean, the game one curse, that was also the thing. At that point, the Raptors, after that game, dropped to, I believe, 2-13 all time in game ones.
Yeah, so let's so here's a quick ranking of the game one first round losses during this era.
During the We the North era.
During the We the North era.
Okay,
so this is their 5th game one loss in the first round in 6 postseason runs.
How is that possible?
And all of them, they start at home.
Yes.
To be clear on that, too.
I don't think we were ever lower than like a 3 seed.
Yeah. So 2014 game one, they lose to Brooklyn 94-87.
Yep.
This is when Masai yells "fuck Brooklyn" before the game.
Yeah.
Darren Williams,
Classic.
Joe Johnson both scored 24. Paul Pierce 9 of his 15 points in the fourth.
Yeah.
DeMar DeRozan 3 of 14 from the field in his playoff debut.
Yeah.
Shot clock malfunctions in the third quarter.
Yeah, Herbie has to count
down from 5 and yell horn when it hits 24.
It was 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Horn.
What is that, a Tom Thibodeau play call?
Sounds like Ciara's level up, man.
So 94-87, they end up losing in 7 games in that series.
Yeah.
The following year, 2015, game one, they lose 93-86 in overtime.
Oh, that's a shimmy.
Scoring 86 points in an overtime game? Oh, my God.
Yo, you think it was easy to score on Marcin Gortat?
So Paul Pierce does an interview with ESPN that week and says, I'm not really worried about Toronto. They don't have it.
Yo, Rachel Nichols was running the game back then.
He was running Toronto into the ground, man. Yeah. And then Masai before, again, at Jurassic Park, goes, I don't give a shit about it, which didn't really hit the same as fuck Brooklyn because it's just a weird sentence.
Okay, but his fuck Brooklyn is so funny because it comes out of nowhere.
Yeah. Dwayne Casey refuses to reveal his starting 5 before the game.
Right.
And then replaces Amir Johnson, who was like hurt coming into the playoffs.
Yeah, he had a bad ankle.
With Psycho T, Tyler Hansbrough. That's the big adjustment from Dwayne.
Surprise.
Paul Pierce scores 20 points. Graves Vasquez, like you mentioned, game tying 3 at the end of the fourth quarter with a shimmy.
Yeah.
Randy Whitman uses an upside down clipboard. He's caught with a clipboard upside down at one point during a timeout and still beats Dwayne Casey and the Raptors.
Oh, that's tough.
The following
By the way, the end of that series,
Yeah.
Dwayne Casey, after getting swept, wears to Game 4 his championship ring.
That's right, with the Dallas Mavericks. Yeah. Yes, forgot
and
to
it wasn't
mention,
like he was wearing it all the time either. He wore it specifically for that.
Forgot to
podium.
mention, yes, the Raptors end up getting swept.
Yeah.
Next season, 2016, Game 1 against the Pacers.
Oh, God.
Raptors finally get to 90 points, lose 100-90.
Yeah.
Paul George, 33.
Yeah, PG was killer that time.
Wow, Monte Ellis, 15 points. You mentioned Kyle and DeMar. Kyle, 3 of 13. DeMar, 5 of 19.
Yeah, Jeff Teague, 10 podcasts after the game.
Yeah. Raptors end up winning that series in 7.
That was a nail-biting 7 games.
Following year, 2017, forgot about this one. Game 1 against the Milwaukee Bucks.
Oh, man.
They get blown out 97-83. Giannis goes off for 28. A rookie, Malcolm Brogdon, 16 points.
Yeah.
Kyle Lowry, 2 of 11.
That game I remember because I went to Jurassic Park for it. So I was there with Josh Hart and Joe Wolfon. And we were watching the game in Jurassic Park. And I remember it was raining that day. It was like probably like 10, 11 degrees. And then it was the same day where the Raptors were playing and then the Leafs were playing afterwards. The Leafs were playing on the road.
Oh, brother.
So like Leafs fans started like filtering into Jurassic Park. And they were like chanting, change the channel, bop, 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 bop. And I was like, shut the fuck up. You guys are going to lose too. Just wait your fucking turn. I was so annoyed with Leafs fans in this stretch and that time. And I remember too, because going to game 1, it was the same thing. Game 1 against Orlando.
Yeah.
Halfway through, because they keep panning to the crowd, it just gets bluer and bluer. Because guess what? Raptors got to play, or the Leafs got to play the Boston Bruins. And it's like, how about some solidarity? How about the fact that like we're all just trying to come over this like championship hurdle together?
Fighting, not MLSC teams.
It was so stupid. They were just booing. I mean, like whatever. Matthew Dellavedova had more points than Kyle.
My God.
Like, anyway, I remember being that one. I was so pissed at everything.
So out of all these, and then of course the DJ Augustin game that we just talked about. These are the 5 game 1 losses at home in the first round during this era.
The only one we didn't lose was game 1 in 2018 against Washington.
Against Washington as the number 1 seed, but even in that series, we go up 2-0 and then lose the next 2 in Washington, which was
AC
super
fan
annoying.
play.
So of those 5, you can either rank them or pick the one that bothered you the most.
It's by far 2017.
Okay, that's the one.
We ended up beating Milwaukee coming back in that one.
What was that one? Why did that one bother you more than even this one? Like the loss to Orlando?
Because that was arguably Kyle's best season.
Okay.
He got injured, but he was balling that whole year.
Yeah.
And it was like, you know what? We're playing against a very young Milwaukee team. Like, we got Serge, we got PJ Tucker. Like, we have made moves. And it's like, you go into that game and you're just like the same shit. It was like DeMar couldn't get it going. Kyle couldn't get it going. And like our defense was still bad. And it was like, what's going on? Like, how is it going to be every single year we look like this? And then plus you throw in the Leafs fans and the bad weather. And I was just in a terrible mood after that one. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah.
This one was just kind of funny, especially thinking about it now.
Okay. So post game, Nick Nurse takes responsibility for Kyle's scoreless game 1.
What?
Says he needs to put him in a better position to impact the game. Offensively,
he's the point guard. He decides what position he's in to impact the game.
Nick says, quote, I need to do everything I can to help him succeed, and we're going to do that tomorrow, which we're going to get to some stuff here with this Nick Nurse book that you have with us.
That's right.
Kyle, on going scoreless, says, quote, it's happened before.
Yo, the funniest thing is that's not even Kyle's first 0-point game that season on national TV.
Really?
Because there was a game that year where the Raptors played Milwaukee, and the Raptors lost that one by a pretty close game, and it was a nationally televised game, and that game he also went out and scored 0.
Yeah. Oh, my God. Okay, so he says, quote, it's happened before. I'm a guy that plays basketball the right way.
Yeah.
Just because I didn't score doesn't mean I didn't play the right way, but because we lost, it looks worse. And then Kyle's also
it
asked,
does look worse.
Kyle's also asked what he has to do, and he says, quote, I just got to make sure I'm more aggressive. I think in the situation that we're in, the way they're guarding me, I can look to score a lot more watching the film, but we'll see. You go with what the game gives you.
Well, the thing is, like, I mean, to fast forward to the rest of the series, because obviously we're not going to do another round pod from the rest of the Magic series. But Kyle, the next game has 22 points.
Yeah.
The Raptors win by like 30 points.
Yep.
And I remember a moment because Kyle got fouled, go on a drive 1 minute into the first quarter. So like 1 minute into the game. And when Kyle goes to the foul line, this is when I say the crowds were elite before.
Yep.
Because like the whole crowd, like everyone like got up in an ovation and were like just cheering him on the free throws. Like usually you have Herbie being like shh on the free throws. Fans were like actively trying to give their energy to Kyle. And then Kyle missed the first free throw.
Oh, yeah, that's
but
right.
He made the second one.
And then he gets a huge cheer.
He got a huge cheer.
Because that's his first point of the series.
I mean, like, that's how you know the fan base is riding and dying with Kyle. And it's like, as much as you can get mad at him and annoyed at him for this happening, the support was there. And obviously, Kyle, the rest of the playoffs was, like, pretty good. The thing is, like, Kyle's going to have some of these games. Because, like, at this point in his career, he's not, like, a scorer first and foremost. He's, like, the third option. So, like, there's going to be moments where he's not scoring. But it was pretty hilarious. Can I read you what Nick wrote about this game?
Yeah, so Nick in his what's the book's name again? Rapture,
the 15 teams, 4 countries, 1 NBA championship, and how to find a way to win damn near anywhere. Nick Nurse, written by Michael Sokolov.
Yeah, so Nick puts out this book after the championship, and I believe you're gonna read an excerpt about how he dealt with that miscommunication. Yeah. On that final play of this game 1 loss.
So these are Nick Nurse's words in his book. If I look at it honestly, I was probably one of the biggest question marks. First year NBA head coach, had only been an assistant in the league for 5 years, all with the same team. Thrown into the cauldron of the NBA playoffs with a roster that did not look much different than the one that underachieved in the past. And then, you know, he talked about whatever, like all that kind of stuff. And then he said, about game 1, we came out in game 1 against Orlando like we were half asleep. We played with a modest lead through most of the first quarter, then started gifting the Magic with open shots all over the floor. We have certain ways we want to defend, depending on the opponent and what we talked about before the game. We looked like we had forgotten it all the moment we walked out the locker room. On offense, I barely recognized what we were trying to do. A play near the end of the first half typified our performance. As he was trying to back down the defender on the right side of the lane, Kawhi picked up his dribble, wasn't even double-teamed, and just floated a pass out to the perimeter. I think it was intended for Kyle. The Magic easily intercepted it, ended up with a dunk going the other way, pushed the lead to 16 points, 57-41. We clawed back in the second half, and we went back and forth, but we never did look particularly good. In the fourth quarter, with the score tied at 101 and 4 seconds left on the clock, their point guard, DJ Augustin, had the ball near the top of the three-point arc. He got a screen. Kawhi and Marc Gasol got their wires crossed on coverage, and left Augustin unguarded. Augustin calmly raised up for a wide open shot and nailed it. It would have been surprising if he missed. He was so open, he could have been in the gym by himself. Kawhi got a shot at the other end, but he airballed. And then he wrote, I wrote about in my vow that I only fire 6 bullets over the course of the season. 6 times when I would really let loose on the team.
6 god. Okay. This guy's a true sixer.
All the signs are there. I had not used them all, not even close. It rarely felt necessary, but this was definitely a moment. That first game against Orlando was on a Saturday night, and the next one was not until Tuesday, which, considering what had happened, felt like an eternity. I figured that I just let it sink in for 24 hours so they can think about it. The next day of practice, I didn't have much to say. I just sat there calmly listening to everybody. The general consensus, it seemed to me, was that everything was going to be fine. Players like to muddy the waters. When things go wrong, they find excuses, blame refs, lay some mix-up, or find excuses on another teammate, and I heard a little bit of that. The Toronto media, though, they were killing us, and I don't blame them. Toronto's Game 1 loss to Orlando Magic sets a terrible first impression, one that will last, read a headline in the Globe and Mail. Another one that, despite the moves we made, the coaching change, the trade for Kawhi, the midseason deal for Gasol, it still looked like we might not be able to, quote, prevent being the laughing stock of the Eastern Conference elites in the playoffs yet again, end quote. Kyle Lowry came in for some really tough criticism. We had successfully decreased his minutes the last couple of years, and I thought he entered the postseason fresh and ready to go, but he was somehow held scoreless. That Globe and Mail article said that, quote, Kyle played 34 minutes and did not score a single point. It's so unusual in basketball, it's almost an achievement, end quote. His counterpart, DJ Augustin, scored 35. We had a film session on Monday where I planned to show the clips from the previous games, the lowlights of the dumb stuff we did. I took Kyle into my office beforehand and said, quote, we're going to work our way out of this. I wanted to acknowledge to him that I was in it with him, that I was getting shit too for getting out coached. And I said to Kyle, that's why we get paid a lot of money, because sometimes we got to take it. And Kyle said, I got you. Okay, then let's get right into the film room because I'm fucking pissed. You know what I mean? And Kyle said, as you should be. And he walked out. And yeah, he mentioned the fact that, like, you know, all season he wasn't the one running film room.
Right.
That was the first time that he actually took over film session for the team. He had given it to the assistants beforehand. And Nick Nurse said, I was really giving it to Kawhi, Kyle, Marc, and Danny, 4 veterans. I didn't have much to say to Pascal, who had asserted himself and scored 24 points. Besides, he was a young guy, and I was not the one I was counting on to lead us through whatever anxiety feeling they were getting. And I remember showing Augustin running all over us and saying, this guy, this is the guy that we let beat us. I didn't mean any disrespect to DJ, a really solid and smart player in his 11th NBA season, including 10 games with the Raptors in 2013. Just one-time Raptor DJ Augustin. But he had never averaged more than 15 points, and that was back in 2011. In his previous playoff performances, he scored at a 6-point-per-game clip, and we made him look unguardable like he was Allen Iverson.
Damn, man.
Yeah. And then, of course, the Raptors respond, and they end up clapping the Magic the next 4 games.
Yeah.
But, I mean, like, I do like that perspective. Like, the fact that, like, him and Kyle were always close. Nick and Kyle always had each other's back. Like, yeah. That was even when they were as assistant coaches. Or when Nick was an assistant coach, he had a good relationship with Kyle. And then the other part, too, is just like Nick didn't yell at the team that year because he didn't have to.
Right.
And then he saved it for that moment. And, like, yeah, he tore into all those veterans.
Yeah, and it's always cool to hear these stories. And, like, listen, we hear most of these stories, like, after the teams actually win, right? Because, like, all the teams that don't actually make it, I'm sure coaches have their own plans, too, of, like, oh, using my 6 bullets and stuff. And then you never hear. No, it's like when the Cavs won the title in 2016. Yeah. They come back from, like, 3-1 against the Warriors. Yeah. Then you hear about, like, Ty Lue and like LeBron made like each teammate like put a piece of the puzzle in like after every win, and it was like 16 pieces of the puzzle. You're not gonna hear about the 13 pieces of the puzzle if they lost.
By the way, didn't they get that from like Field of Dreams or like one of those movies?
I don't even know.
Minor League. They got that from Minor League. They literally had 16 pieces of the puzzle that they ripped off of the poster. Yeah.
Or like Doc Rivers like stashing the money in LA to come back and get it during the finals, like with the
hard.
Celtics.
Also Ubuntu.
yeah, Ubuntu and all this stuff. Yeah. But it is cool to hear like in retrospect.
No, Nick was
like,
cooking
how
at that time
Nick
too,
wanted to approach this.
Yeah.
And listen, man, it was a veteran team. Like as much as Nick was gonna strategize all this stuff, like if they messed up in that game 1, they needed to just go figure it out themselves.
And they did. Again, the next game they won like 110 to like 81.
yeah, and they end up, of course, winning the series in 5 games. Yeah. And they move on to the second round. So let's get to some awards for this game 1.
We want to take this break in the podcast to let you know that we are partnering with Tangerine for this season. For people who aren't familiar, Tangerine is the official bank of the Toronto Raptors and its fans, and Tangerine is a foundational partner of NBA Canada and WNBA Canada. Tangerine is focused on growing the game of basketball in the country from the grassroots level all the way up to the pros, and where you will find a court, you will likely find Tangerine. And that's the mission that really resonated with us, because we also share the same goal of growing the game of basketball here in Canada. What you need to know about Tangerine is that they are about forward banking. That means no unfair fees, no overly complicated products, no expensive brick and mortar branches. And if you want to learn more about Tangerine, go to tangerine.ca.
The 3 stars. We got to hand out the 3 stars here. So
okay, so first star for this game, I'm going to give it to Pascal Siakam. I think the perspective here is that, so he plays the game high 42 minutes. Mm-hmm. He goes for 24 points, 9 rebounds, 4 assists. He overcomes this idea that like he can't score on like Orlando, because Orlando did have really good wing defenders, and he had a poor regular season against Orlando. Mm-hmm. He has 24. Later in the series, Pascal actually, there was a game where Kawhi was sick. So Kawhi, like it was a game 3 or 4 in Orlando. It was quite a close game. Pascal actually closed the game out for the Raptors, and he had a huge one. So Pascal was just like really establishing himself, erase all the doubts. He's your first star. Your second star is Kawhi Leonard, 25 points, 6 rebounds, 3 assists, 33 minutes. I was a little surprised he only played 33.
Yeah.
10 of 18 from the field, 3 of 5 from 3. He's not getting the first star because he was half of the reason why DJ Augustin got open for the 3.
Yeah, that's
And then
fair.
your third star, I mean, you can go different ways. I think Fred probably gets it. 14 points off the bench, 5 of 9 shooting, 3 of 6 from 3. Fred goes on to really struggle over the rest of the first half of the playoffs. Mm-hmm. This is like pretty much one of those only games that he actually was able to get his game off until Milwaukee. But he played really well. But I do really like what Marc did too. But again, Marc also screwed up on the defensive coverage, and he missed a wide open 3.
Yeah. So. And then, you know, instead of the Gerald Henderson Award for the Championship React Pod, we are going to rename it to the DJ Augustin Award.
Yeah.
And
that's fair.
And of course, the recipient for this in this game is DJ Augustin.
Yeah, I mean,
what was his stat line? 25 points.
DJ Augustin went for 25 points on 9 of 13 shooting, 4 of 5 from 3, including the game winner, 6 assists in 30 minutes.
Yeah, so I'm checking his box score for the rest of the series.
Yeah.
He ends up having a combined 24 points in the next 3 games.
Okay.
And then goes for 15 in the Game 5 loss. Yeah. So this was like an outlier game.
No, this is like the most random outlier game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then we also want to give the MIG as well, most important guy. Is there a MIG that jumps out at you for game 1?
Most important guy for game 1.
Like JV for showing up again.
Honestly, most important guy might have been Strizzy, man. That intro got me so hyped, man.
Okay.
Again,
Marc Strong, Strizzy. That's the MIG.
I think the MIG is really the fact that we had such a good team.
Yeah.
Like, we're talking about Kyle Lowry, North Philly to your city, the money man, 3-point line, you know, from Kawhi, from Cameroon, Spicy P, you know, the big boss from Barcelona, and then the Claw. Like,
yeah. No, Strizzy was in his bag. Yeah, Strizzy was in his bag. And I've got an extra award, which is the subplot of the game.
Okay.
This goes to Eric Moreland versus TSN's Josh Lewinberg.
Oh, God.
So for people...
You really got to explain this.
So for people that don't remember, so before the game, TSN's Josh Lewinberg, shouts to J. Lou, tweeted out, quote, "Didn't notice until now, but DeRozan's old locker, which was initially left vacant, but then reassigned to the boy, a.k.a. Drake, now belongs to 15th man Eric Moreland." Poor Aubrey. So basically the locker room that Drake had, like an honorary locker room, had to go to the 15th guy.
So they left DeMar's locker vacant? Like, that's how much respect they gave him?
Yeah. But then they changed the DeRozan sign on it to the boy. So whenever Drake was in the locker room, that's where he would be.
I don't remember being in the locker room that many times that year. It just said the boy?
Yeah.
It didn't say Drake?
No, it just said the boy.
It just said the boy. Okay.
Yeah. So he, J-Lou sends this tweet, and then moments later, Eric Moreland sees this tweet and has a problem with it because J-Lou updates us and he tweets, "Eric Moreland, who clearly didn't get this was a shot at Drake having a locker room in the first place and not at him, screamed obscenities at me in a crowded locker room pregame. By the way, dealing with things that way should bode well for his professional future."
Oh, man.
So this is
J.
like,
Lou, you know you're in front of the
No,
program, but you know you look at hella lame with this.
no, this was a subplot, J. Lou with the 15th man, and then to put a bow on this too, I think what happens afterwards is they actually have a sit down.
Yeah.
Like after a practice and
Right.
just sort it out and everything is all good. So it was just it was just a joke that was misconstrued.
I don't think he was making fun of
this was
Eric
the beginning
Moreland.
of the downfall of Twitter.
Yeah.
so.
I mean, I don't think he was making fun of Eric Moreland. I think
No, he was not at all.
it is kind of funny that the Raptors had a locker room for Drake. Drake used to be in the locker room all the time.
Oh, yeah.
Like,
yeah,
you used
yeah.
to just see Drake in the tunnels all the time. Like, Drake used to make like probably, I don't know, 20 appearances
Yeah.
in a season.
Probably more. He was not at this game.
He was not at this game.
Yeah, was not spotted at this game.
Well, he didn't have a locker room anymore, man. The boy had nowhere to put his stuff. He couldn't change. But like, yeah, I mean, he used to just be around all the time.
Yeah.
But at the same time, though, like, I mean, still tweeting it, it's just like you need to tweet this. I mean, they could have just kept this quiet.
No, I'm taking J. Lou's side on this one.
Yeah, okay, fair enough. I
shouts
mean,
to J. Lo.
I don't think J. Lou did anything worthy of being yelled at for.
Yeah, I don't. This was just a pure like misunderstanding.
Right. This isn't Joel Embiid versus Marcus Hayes.
Yeah. So that's the wrap up for our game one recap
Man.
for Orlando,
Got me so hyped, man.
Toronto. So we're gonna do these throughout the season.
Yeah.
I think the plan is to probably have like one like every other week or something like
So
that.
we have 10 games
We've
that
picked 10 games.
we're gonna recap.
So the next one is going to be
Game 4,
Game 4.
round 2,
Raptors are
In
down
Philadelphia.
2-1 in Philly.
Wells Fargo.
Yeah.
That one's gonna be the next one. Then Game 7. Then a couple from the Milwaukee games, and then I think 4 from the finals.
Yeah, and
The
then
4 wins.
And then maybe we'll do a bonus react to just the parade. Yeah.
Ooh,
We should just rewatch the
5-hour
parade
live
coverage.
stream, just like the parade
Oh my
was.
God.
We're gonna pour champagne on you, goat.
Jerome's like, when? I love how Jerome just becomes Doc Rivers. He's like, hey guys.
Guys,
Anyways, shouts
Ubuntu means we're in this
shouts to our friends at Curado
yeah,
Gallery
this is
for
dope.
having us 688
Yo,
Richmond.
you want to see all the pieces in the back, man? Come on,
Yeah,
man.
see some of these pieces.
Yo, there's a speedy free youth clinics Raptors basketball tee.
there's incredible stuff here. You guys should check it
Vinsanity.
out. Make sure.
Mr. and Mrs. Smith.
Yeah, and
Elite
we know
movie.
we know Will's favorite hobby is shopping. So if he says this is the place to be, this
Yo.
is the place to be. So
I'm gonna cop a $200 car charge after this.
yeah, what? So yeah, no, thank you everyone, appreciate it.
Yeah.
Yo, take us out, Will.
That's right. Thanks everyone for listening. Rate, review, subscribe. Again, like let us know what you think of the Championship React Pods. This is the Raptors 30th anniversary. We really want to be able to sort of get more guests involved with this project too, so stay tuned. But it's always really fun visiting the best parts of Raptors history, and I'm just excited to watch the next one. And by the way, if you want to watch along too, you can actually just watch the games for free. You can hit the link that's in the description. Otherwise, leave us a like, subscribe to the channel, rate, review, subscribe on the podcast feeds. And this has been the Hello Welcome Podcast presented by Betway.